Welcome back to another episode of Red Cap Mechanic, this time on the 53 Dodge Meadowbrook. So, since last time I was kind of thinking about why that generator was having so much problem, and my brother Adam, the mechanic that he is, pointed out a couple of things that I had kind of already been thinking of in terms of like that starter turned over really well for a 6-volt. And I started me thinking maybe the person who had this car before, the shop or whatever, was trying to use a 12-volt battery, which since they had it hooked up to negative ground, makes more sense. I don't think they knew exactly what they were working with this kind of an old car. Not that I'm an expert, but I thought it would be good to kind of test that. So I have acquired a tool to help out with that. This is what's known as a multimeter. It's a very useful tool to diagnose any electrical problems. And basically what you do is, you say, I'm looking for how many direct current volts there are. It's going to be in the area of 20, because this battery should either be a 6 or 12 volt battery. It doesn't have any markings on it, but I suspect it's 12. So let's test it and find out. I've already turned it over to the 20 volt, so that should be a good range for that. So all we got to do is connect these leads to it and find out. Let's see what happens. Alrighty, so we've got our tool set up here. You can see the screen is currently reading 0 because these aren't touching anything. So we'll connect it to the positive, and if this says 12, then or if this says 12 when I touch that, then we've been using a 12 volt battery. I have these hooked up backwards. I told you, I am an expert mechanic. Okay. Alright, we're looking at 12.4. So this is, we can confirm, a 12 volt battery. So we need to replace this with a 6 volt, and they look a little bit different. Here is a 6 volt battery. They usually have like these 3 caps on them. This one's marked, and as you can see, the positions of the negative is a lot closer to where it should be, and the positive is closer to where it should be. So just because, I'm tired of damaging this car, let's check and see if, and confirm this is a 12 or a 6 volt battery. Ugh. My goodness. Yeah. Am I gonna need a tool to get these off? Yeah. 1 second. Greatest tool ever devised. Maybe. But in the hands of an idiot, can it work? Oh my goodness. There we go. Alrighty. So let's get our tester set back up and confirm we are working with a 6 volt battery here. Yep. So I feel a lot more confident in this one. Let's put that on. Oop. That really doesn't fit at all. That's fine. All right, let's fire it up and see if that generator is still ticking or what's going on. Alrighty, you get to enjoy the barking dog in the background, but let's fire it up and see if it starts without any issue. Hey, I want to move that guy out of the way. A few issues. could hear that it didn't spin over nearly as fast. Let's take a look at the voltmeter. Alrighty, inside the car here, we can see that our amp meter is much happier. I do smell a lot of gasoline though, a lot of fuel. The temp's still low, so let's take a look around the car and see what we can see. I'm not seeing any leaks from the fuel, which is good. Doesn't sound too happy though, does it? We can also test and see if that alternator is charging. Or generator rather. Yeah, it looks like it's maintaining pretty steady. That's good. Alright, on this lower angle, there's quite a bit of shaking. It doesn't seem to be running as well as it was before. Maybe that'll come out of it. I don't know why it would have gotten any worse. Also, one of the tires went flat. That's unfortunate. Amp gauge is still holding steady. Temp gauge is fine. The motor just does not seem very happy. Okay, my theory is that maybe this isn't connecting very well, because you can see there's a lot of wiggle there, and if we're not getting a good connection, like that one's on there pretty solid, but if we're not getting a good connection here, then we're not going to be able to run the car very well. I don't know how much more I can kind of close that. I guess this terminal is a little bit smaller. Let me think on that for a second. The good news is at least that generator is no longer smoking, and I think it's still putting out power, so that's a win. Okay, so there's something on old cars like this called the choke, which controls the airflow. And this has like an electric choke. I think that's what that is, with that horrendous wiring. You think that just maybe needs 6 volts to it? I don't, because I don't know where, like this guy, this horrible looking fellow, is supposed to go. He's really long, so I mean he could go anywhere in the engine bay. Oh. It does do something when you connect it to the negative terminal. Huh. Maybe if we try, can we manually kind of close it? Maybe it would run better. Maybe give it some squirt action. I mean, yeah, the squirter's definitely working. Why is there smoke coming out of it though? Okay, stay close. All right, squirt, fire. A little bit of gas. All right, it seems to not be running as well as it was. I can squirt it and then turn it over. But you hear how that starter is much slower on 6 volts than it is 12. Okay, why would you be running less good today? Because we can squirt. Actually, let's check. That bowl might be empty. Do you see any squirter action when I actuate the lever? I do. Okay. Because it seems like it's running out of fuel. Let's check something. Let's try taking off this fuel connection here and seeing if it's still squirting like it was last time. I have a suspicion it might not be. Okay, I'm going to crank it and you watch and tell me if you see any fuel squirting out of there. Let's try spraying some brake cleaner down there. Maybe the diaphragm dried out again. Uh-oh. Because it was pumping pretty good. All right, so we'll spray this down here. And we'll see what it does. Good, spray that on the hot exhaust manifold, Gary. All right, that's full again. So let's give it a second to think about what it's doing with its life, and then we can crank it over again, and hopefully that'll have helped out the pump diaphragm down there. Who knows? The other good thing is we connected this cable that goes to this thing, which I think is an electric choke, and to the negative, and it worked. So I guess we need to find something that's supposed to be connected to, but I have no idea what that could be, because that could literally reach any part of the car over there. The starter solenoid, fuses on the wall. So that's gonna be something to research. But it's been about 2 or 3 minutes, so hopefully that has had enough time to kind of reinvigorate. We'll turn it on and see if we start getting some squirter action. I think we'll connect it, because if it's working, then it should start pumping. We'll just do it hand tight. I will pour some gas into the carburetor so it can actually start running on its own, and we'll see how that goes. Alrighty, pour some gas in the carburetor. Not sure why it's smoking, but I will give it a shot. Here we go. Come on, baby. Okay. Maybe it needs a little bit more time to kind of pumpinate. Yeah, that's what you want, you know, that mist of death. Okay, so we'll take the top off again and fill the bowl with with gasoline, and that will allow it to run for long enough that it should be able to start pumping, and we'll have an idea if that's working or not. So we're just gonna remove these 6 bolts that hold the bowl on and fill it up with pure, clean gasoline. All right, might need some more gas. Got some more gas here. We'll try and, I better take these screws out, because if I lose them, I am sure they are, well, irreplaceable. Alrighty. So we'll take our gas. The bowl is empty. The bowl is quite full. I spilled a little bit, so we're going to take our time putting these screws back in and give that gasoline a minute to dry. It fell on the outside. I solemnly swear I am not making this harder than it needs to be. This is the best I can do. All right, let's take this out and see if it pumps at all for us. We don't have much daylight left, so we're gonna have to be quick. Like now. Move! What we're gonna be looking for is fuel to pump out of here. Check the alternator, generator. Okay, it's charging. Temp's still cooled. Probably not going to run too long with what's in the bowl. It was pumping. That's a little disappointing. It was pumping last time. I mean, we saw the squirts together, but we're not getting anything today. Let's try that one more time and see if we can feel if that pump is even pumpinating. Because if it's not, like if we put our finger on the end, we should feel like a as it's trying to move something. And if we don't feel that, then it's probably the pump. If we do feel that, it could be out of gas somehow. Maybe it all leaked out. Or it could be a problem with the pickup sock or something along the length of the fuel system. But it's starting to rain and we're running out of daylight, so we're gonna have to do this quick. Alrighty, new day, new us. Before we tear into today, I'd like to talk a bit about managing expectations. It turns out that this vehicle is a 1950 Dodge Meadowbrook, and you can tell that from a few things. Number one, the casting number on the engine block denotes that it's a 1950 vehicle. The second thing is the front windshield is in two pieces rather than just one solid pane of glass, which you would see in a 53. So I think this thing was mislabeled on Facebook Marketplace, but that kind of leads me to my next point, that I'm not really joking when I say that I don't know what I'm doing. This is like the third car I've ever worked on in my life. So if you're coming here looking for exact how-tos and tips, that's not really what I can offer you. Why I'm doing this is because I want to encourage people who don't have a lot of confidence in working on things like this, that they can go take the chance and go try and learn on that and do some things, and maybe you'll have success and maybe you'll have failure, but either way you can still have fun, enjoyment, and learn something. So I know there's a lot of people on YouTube that really know their stuff very well. That's not me. I try and figure it out. I like to think that I'm a reasonably intelligent man, but this is not my native habitat. I am not a mechanic by trade. I just really like fixing things and get a real sense of accomplishment from that, and I like learning and challenging myself. So that's why I do this. It's not because I know how to do it. Like, we're figuring it out together. So I just kind of wanted to restate that in case anybody may have been confused about it. And, you know, if that's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But, like, I enjoy doing it, and if you enjoy following along, then I hope you will. And if not, that's okay too. There's lots of options out there, but let's dig into it today and see what we can do. Alrighty, as we're starting off today, we found out a few things. First, the fuel pump is working because I unscrewed the nut and put my finger next to it, and I did feel a pump pulse of juice, or not juice, but air coming out. It's just there's no gasoline in there. So I'm thinking what happened is it all leaked out of the tank at some point. So maybe there's a leak in the tank. So I've gotten some more gasoline. I'll fill that up, and then we'll see if we can get it running long enough. Now that the generator is not a problem, we can start running it longer and seeing if the cooling system is actually working. We've also got a flat tire, which hopefully we can air up. I'm not really sure why it went flat. It held air just fine earlier, but we'll take a look at that. These tires probably will all have to be replaced anyway, and that's okay, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of tear into this and see what we do. Hopefully we've got at least an hour or two before any storms or rains come, so let's get going on it. Hopefully doing this, we'll also be able to see if there's any leaks, where they're at, whether it's in the gas tank itself or the fuel lines or both, because there's got to be a leak somewhere. After having filled it up, we can identify that we do have a substantial leak in the gas tank, which is not unexpected, but we will have to address that later. But it should have enough gas that we can kind of get rolling on some more experiments, testing. But yeah, that's a significant leak. Let's get this tire aired up. Now, to air up the tire, we're going to use an automatic one, because I don't really want to pump it with my foot a million times. I've also got a battery for the thermometer. So with these two things combined, when we're running it, we should be able to see how it's doing. I'm going to fill this up to about 30 psi just to, ooh, the knee, just to see if it holds. I didn't get a PSI reading on that, but it's at least not flat. Let's move on to the engine. Alrighty, this is much the same way that we left it. So let's crank on it and see if it'll start. We still have not been drawing anything out of the tank yet, but I feel we're close. I feel we're getting real close. In fact, let's put this nut back on and fill up the bowl. That should give this enough fuel to get the pump pumping, because we have to assume that it was bone dry. And quickly moving that direction as we speak. Bowl is full. That should give us at least maybe a minute of running, and if it runs longer than that, then we know that the pump is pumpinating. Okay, let's see if it can fire off. All right, squirting. 3 good pumps, 4 good pumps. Fire in the hole. That sounds pretty good. The oil pressure's good, and the alternator, the generator gauge is fine. Smells like a lawnmower, but that's cool, right? $115. $118 at the back of the block. $93 on my hand. The volt gauge is still showing that it's charging a little bit. The temp gauge is still good. 125, 123, 129, 125, 113. Temp gauge is still good. Amp gauge is showing a little bit of a charge, which you would expect after having turned the battery over. Oil pressure still great. Fuel still not registering. May just not have enough in it. See if we press the pedal, we can get a little bit more acceleration. Not super happy with that. Temp is starting to come up a little bit. We're at halfway, which is probably fine. The wipers work? Oh my gosh. We have wipage. Okay, that's cool. Tire's still holding air. See what the generator's at. Generator's at 105. Front of the engine's at 148. Back of the engine 143. Water pump 146. Cooler thing 129. Okay. Well, not bad. Shall we see if it can move under its own power, or is that a bad idea? Probably is a bad idea, but I kind of want to try it, just see what happens. Temperature's starting to rise a little bit. Let's give it just a little shot and see what happens. Woohoo! We drove forward a little bit. I haven't figured out how to put her in reverse yet, and she was starting to get a little on the hot side, so I didn't want to do any irreparable harm to her. But she was able to move under her own power for the first time in who knows how long. I don't see anything too terrible on the inside here. No brakes, so no brakes. I think I'm gonna let her cool down for a few minutes, and then maybe try and drive her up onto the concrete. That might be a little bit easier with working on her than where she was. So we'll get back to you. Did I mention it was hot here? Okay, so we got it to drive about 20 feet, but I'm having trouble getting it to go into reverse. with, I believe you've got to pull that lever up, but every time I do that, the car seems to be stalling and dying, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's running out of gas. Let's test and see how hot it is in there real quick. Engine block is 180. Thermostat's 179. Top of the radiator 164. Back of the block 173. Side of the block 171. I don't think we're in the danger zone of hurting it yet, but it's definitely not quite running very happily. So let's give it some time to cool down, and myself as well, and see if we can't figure out how these gear linkages work. Is that hot? I guess I could just 146. Probably not too hot to touch. You see down in there? Let's put some more water in until it fills up. Maybe that'll help it out. I do not want to destroy another perfectly good engine because I overheat it. So I'm trying to be as careful as possible with this one. Now this is lukewarm water, so, and the engine isn't boiling, so even if it was cooler, I think it'd be okay. But with it being lukewarm, I think it's really going to be fine. You don't want to pour cold water into or around a hot engine though, because that can cause a sudden change in temperature and crack the metal. And you need that metal. I don't know how much this requires. That much. Okay. Let's turn it on and see what happens. $173. The hose is rubber, so it's kind of hard to tell. 117 at the top of the radiator. I'm not seeing the water move yet. Base of the carburetor is 156. Bowl of the carburetor is 137. Thermostat housing is 159. So if it has a 160 degree thermostat in there, that makes sense. Now the block's 160. $161, 160, 158, back of the block, 164, the radiator is still not moving anything around though, which concerns me. like just barely running. I'm gonna try and either go forward or back. Forward, I guess. You think the idle's too low? Okay, I think pulling the gear shift down is low gear. Completely off the clutch now. Kind of dying under any acceleration. This is just me off the clutch. Well, why is that happening? Maybe the idle is too low. Maybe it's all the gas is drained out. I don't know. Okay, I poured the last of the gas that I have in here, and let's try turning it on and seeing if maybe that helps, or maybe adjusting the idle. Oh yeah. It did that on purpose, didn't it? Okay. All right, let's try that again. Couple pumps. Turn it on. All right, the oil pressure is not as happy as it once was, which is quite concerning, but it's still at 20. If it goes much lower, though, we'll have to shut it down. All right. Alrighty, I have it out of gear. I'm gonna turn it on and try and mess with the idle, which I guess will be this guy. Oh no, can I not get to it? Oh, we got some Blowby. Smoke coming out of the oil. Is that hot? That's pretty hot. All right. What causes Blowby? Bad cylinder rings, right? How's the oil looking? Still not milkshaky. Instead of adjusting the idle, we can just do it with our foot and just kind of hold some pressure on the gas. So that's what we'll try and do. steady high, but steady. Oil pressure is still at 40. $185, $180 on the water neck, $168 at the top of the radiator, $167 at the bottom, $180 on the block, $184 at the back of the block. None of those are terrifying numbers, which is good. If it was starting to get up into the 200 range, I'd start to get kind of worried, but I think 180 is probably fine. Still getting a lot of blow-by out of the oil stick filler thing. And I still can't get the car into reverse because you should have to, on the steering column, pull back and push up to get into reverse. But I haven't been able to do that just yet. It's kind of stuck, so I wonder if there's some linkage or something. And then brakes are totally broken, so that's fine. But the fuel situation is not better, but at least it's understood, because I can fill it up with a few gallons and at least drive it for a few minutes. But I will probably need a new tank, and that is a couple $100. So I have to kind of figure out what my next step in this process is. I'd like to be able to jack it up and look at the wheels, specifically the drums, and see where the brake situation's at. It would be best if I could do that on the concrete, but I'm not quite brave enough to try and do that just yet. So this gravel here is pretty compacted, so maybe I can use that as a source. But yeah, so fuel, brakes, transmission, well, I won't go in reverse. The forward seems to work fine. I need to understand better this fluid drive, what it means and how it's working. That tire is going to need to be replaced probably, because it's starting to look like it's already going flat. The other 3 are holding air just fine. As far as the blow-by issue goes, that may be the result of just old sticky rings, so it may need to just run for a bit. I have a new oil filter on the way. It's not going to be here for a few more days, but when it does arrive, I can drop the oil, make sure that it is detergent oil in there, which it really looks like to me, and if it's not, clean up any sludge and then do a few oil changes to try and get it clean. Thankfully it'll be warm these next few days. I'm gonna disco the power. That's concerning. Yeah. And then of course we have just a mountain of wires to kind of go through and redo. I did get a few wires to try and mess with that again. I'm not an expert with that, but we can try and work through this together to come to an understanding. It's an exciting process. I wish it weren't quite so warm, but you take the good with the bad. But anyway, that's where we're at right now on it. So I'm going to do some thinking, try and figure out what kind of a fuel tank we could get. Try not to break the bank with it, but it's probably going to be fairly expensive. The radiator and the cooling portion of it seems to be okay. Like, it's hot, but it's also really hot out here, and the car's not really moving. So that's really, really tough on an engine that doesn't have like a shroud, because there's nothing to help push the air or pull the air. So that may be why that is, but it's still staying below 200, safely below 200. So I feel confident kind of keeping on with that. I'll keep using the thermometer to just double check that to make sure it's where it needs to be. But I think it's in the okay range. It's not in the danger range. Yeah. So next time, I think next time we'll probably focus on brakes and see what those are like, because the trunk is just full of brake parts, and what I fear is that those brake parts in the trunk are the ones that belong on this vehicle, which is why the pedal's all the way down, because there's no brakes. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you found it mildly entertaining, somewhat fun, possibly even informative. I really appreciate all the comments that you guys give me. They really help me out a lot with understanding, like this being a 50 and not a 53 and things like that. I think the car community is fantastic. It's wonderful, and you know, there's a lot of real positive features to it. So it's a great thing to be a part of. But anyway, guys, that'll be it for this episode. Thank you for joining me. We'll catch you next time on Red Cap Mechanic.